And I can't imagine how much different moments there was pressure to call it off over that year. You know what I mean? Of like, this is clearly not working, blah, blah, but and
Exactly.
here's like something where uh, ourselves as not particularly religious people, there's something here about the fact that there's the church is at the center of all this. That there's that people have like a faith approach where they have a vision and they know if they and they have a faith that if they act well and if they stay united and if they stay strong, that the people will see the light, that the white authorities here will eventually turn around and see the honor and dignity of this struggle and change their mind, change their position. And so I on top of the economic force. So it's like there's like the force of the example of like actually changing hearts of other humans, which Christians deeply believe in, and Martin Luther King deeply believed in and saw. Like I mean, he like they like in numerous times in his life, it was achieved in some ways, and as well as the economic strategy. I've seen this in Central America too. It's like really hard to separate the longevity of some of these movements from their faith kind of approach to life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How can we, when you describe faith without the religious component, I hear imagination.
Mm,
How does that sound to you? Because I want to keep that. I want to keep that. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a person of faith. However, I see the value. I'm a person of faith. Obviously, like the word faith, I have a vision of what I could be. I have a vision of what my family could be. I have a vision of what our society can be and our friendships. Jesse, I have faith that one day I'm gonna visit you again in Canada. You're gonna be down in the US again. We'll grab a drink, we'll chat. Um, so faith, I have no problem with faith. For me, it's this whole broader thing. So I do think if you can, a secular version of faith includes some notion of an imagination. What do you think of
mm.
that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's like those two components to it. There's that imagination, that ability to see a better future, like to actually and to like. Well, in the case of Rosa Parks, she was simultaneously kind of living in it on the forces base or whatever, where they did have a desegregated trolley or an integrated trolley, and then, but on the other side, I think the other component of faith is this idea that like if I mean to use the Gandhi quote, like if I be the change, if I stand for something, if I every day in my actions with integrity kind of like be a be a citizen of that better world, then that's it. And I think you can get this. I mean, to go back to our first ever episode when I was talking about existentialist philosophy, like there's an idea in the existentialist philosophy that you can, because one of the big questions that people who question God and question traditional religion is like, okay, well, what are you going to base human morality in? Like, how are you going to ensure that humans just don't fall back to their most basest greed and desires and not stand for anything larger, any kind of community well-being? And their philosophy is kind of like, well, you need to decide that you are an example for the world. Like whoever you are, wherever you are, like however you act, that is being observed by somebody, that is setting an example for somebody, and that's where you base your morality. And it's like you have to act like everybody's going to act like you. You have to act like you are the model. And so that's kind of a place where as an agnostic or whatever I am, I can put myself there where it's like, okay, if we all act like that, I have faith. If we all believe that, I have faith that we can move towards better societies and we can sacrifice things like walking for a year instead of taking the bus towards those goals.
And you're right. Can you imagine, like 6 months in, some people walking, 8 miles? I'm actually seeing it says as much as 20 in research. In terms of some people are walking as much as 20. Others, might go down the block. Others have to go 8 miles. Every day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine for 6 months, and then the the light at the end of the tunnel is still so far down the path for those people as they're doing this, making this sacrifice. They're like so Is it happening? If you're short-sighted and a bit impatient, you might not get it. You need something else driving you. Again, it's the imagination, it's the vision of the future, it's the faith.
And also, like, I'll bet you a lot of those people will, when asked when they were older, when they were in their 80s or whatever, and what was the most alive you ever felt, like what was the best time of your life? I'm just going off of accounts I've heard of other people, people who fought in civil wars, or people who really put things on the line for what they believed in. Is like they tend to look back at those times with all the sacrifice, with all the, I mean, this person who walked 20 miles a day every day, I can't even imagine. That means they were getting up at 4 a.m. You know what I mean? And then they would get home at 10 p.m. or something. Like, I mean, for a year, but they will look back on that and say, I was part of something. And I was really, like, I was part of it. Like, I was putting into it. It's not just that I believed it, or I would say things to the effect that I believed in it, but like I would put it on the line every day and do this thing, and people respected me for it. And people, and they would get some sort of community recognition, I'm sure, for walking those 20 miles. They would say, they would become the model because somebody else would say, like, yeah, I've been walking 8 miles, but you should talk to Mrs. Jefferson's been walking 20 miles.
Right.
And I, so there's a beauty to these stories too, in the sacrifice, like a beauty in the struggle.